أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الأليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك اللهم وحنانيك علم لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله أفضل الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر النبيين والصالحين وسلم الموفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers. I'm your host Amjad Muhammad, and I'll be with you for the next 45 minutes or so, dealing with your questions, your queries and your curiosities. As you may have gathered, it's not live at the moment, so please don't call on 01274 214299. You will have to wait, inshallah, until we see each other again on a live session for that number to be called and for me to take your calls here in the studio. Alhamdulillah, we've been busy today. We have had a number of guests or people coming in to deal with their queries, their personal queries. As has been mentioned previously, Al Khair Foundation is providing an extra service here from its Bradford studios of Iqra and the Bradford branch of Al Khair on Manchester Road, where people can drop in, preferably to arrange an appointment. That is better in case there's somebody already here or I'm preoccupied with some other activity, whereby they can come in and have their queries and their matters dealt with face to face or over the phone. And this is a great service which has been running now for about a week or so, and already a number of people have benefited from it. We've already issued 2 or 3 fatwa, and already we have had a few people dropping in, and there's more bookings for next week already, alhamdulillah. So as the word spreads, then it will get busier and busier, inshaAllah ta'ala. So please do come in and see us. You'll get a chance to see what goes on at Al Khair here in Bradford, and you'll also have a chance to see the studios where all these wonderful presentations go out on Iqra TV, and you'll be able to see the various work that Al Khair Foundation does across the planet in the different areas, and also the new projects. For example, right now there is the a bike for the Imam project, in which in Mozambique, for example, many imams struggle to make their way to their masjid for their community from their homes. It is some significant distance, and so what they can do obviously is when they get onto, if they have a bike, then that will shorten the trip, which means that they will be able to serve their community better. So we have the information and the posters here in the branch. So if you do pop in, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to give your donations as well. We've had a few people popping in over the last few days, giving either sadaqah or giving their zakah. So it means it's a good connection with the organization. Similarly, there is a clothes and household items that can be brought in to the Al Khair Foundation here in Bradford. That is for the people who are recovering in Pakistan from the floods, the one-in-a-generation floods which took place a few weeks or a month ago. So you'll find out more up-to-date information, but this information is also available on Al Khair Foundation Bradford's social media, whether it be on the Twitter account or whether it be on the Facebook page. So please do friend us on Facebook and do follow us on Twitter, and therefore you'll get all this information available. Anyway, let's move on to the matter at hand, which is dealing with your questions, your queries and your curiosities. We had our young student ringing from Leicester yesterday, and he raised 4 questions. Unusual for him to have 4 questions. We answered 3 of his questions on air yesterday live, and we had 1 question which was left over. And I did say that this is quite a big question, and I thought about it last night, and I thought, you know what, this question I could dedicate the whole Q&A on Friday for, inshallah. So I know you'll be watching at home, young man, so I hope you take note, and also this will be of benefit to others as well. Now, in terms of the evolution theory, because that's the question the young man asked, I've still got it on my notepad, question number 4, theory of evolution. In terms of the evolution theory, the first question comes up is why and where did this evolution theory come from? Well, Across the world, there has always been some belief in a God, whether that has been through shirk, meaning associating divinity to other things like the sun, the wind, statues, mountains, things like that, or whether it's been associating it to an invisible, unseen God, whether it be, for example, like the Greeks, where they had numerous gods dedicated for different responsibilities, but they had like a chief god who was in charge of them all, or whether it was, equal gods, whatever. The bottom line is there's always been a belief, either made up by the people or through a divine text, to believe in a supernatural being, a powerful being. And this was the case up until well into the 19th or maybe the 19th century. These were similar ideas. But we started to see a change, particularly in Europe, where the movement was against the Christian religion in Europe. So Christianity was very firmly established in Europe. We saw that, for example, via the Western Roman Empire. And when the Roman Empire spread across continental Europe, across mainland Europe, and also made its way across into Great Britain, it also brought Christianity with it. It also brought the religion of Christianity. So all the pagan worship that used to go on in Europe, that was replaced by not 100% monotheism, but close to a sort of monotheistic faith. We appreciate that Catholicism in particular has this a concept of the Trinity, which makes it a little bit confusing. Anyway, we had people obviously who objected to religion, and when they objected to religion, their aim was to overthrow religion. Eventually, over centuries, they managed to overthrow religion, and those people who were non-religious or even as far as anti-religious needed now answers to the same questions like, where did we come from? Where are we going to go after we die? Questions which are of a philosophical nature. What are we? What are we made of? What's our soul? What is going on? And it was questions of this nature that were being answered by religion. Religion had told us up until that time, especially through Christianity, that God created Adam and he created Eve. And from Adam and Eve, all the children of the earth were born. Again, we see similarities in the faith of Islam, where it's Adam alayhi salam and Hawa. And we see similar discussions in the Torah of the Jewish community as well. And so when religion was being removed from Europe, how were the Europeans now going to answer the question of where did we come from? If you no longer believe in a God, if you no longer believe that God created man, then where did man come from? Where did humans come from? And this is where we started to see the development of the evolution theory by someone called Charles Darwin, who started to make claim that the origin of species and survival of the fittest and mutation and time were the ones that made humans. In other words, we all started from a very simple creature which was not created but just came about by chance, and then through mutation from generation to generation we started to see different creatures forming, and we started to get families of creature, like the cat family, where we see lions and cheetahs and leopards and pumas and cats, okay? And like the dog family, where we see wolves and dogs and other creatures of that nature, and the horses family, and all these creatures which came from generic families in which there was a single source. So in the same way, when we look around and we try to say, okay, what do humans look like? The only creatures we find that look like us, I appreciate they don't look like us, but near as any creature can be, were the apes. So when you look at a chimpanzee, or you look at a gorilla, or you look at a orangutan, or any type of ape, you see similarities between the human and the apes. So Charles Darwin then said that shows that the humans and the apes are in one family, and they come from one creature many, many years ago, but their source is one creature. And then this one creature developed differently, where we've got the humans, the orangutans, the gorillas, the chimpanzees, whatever. But the asal was one. And this is how they formed from there. And this was the argument that was being made. And this was the argument being made because people wanted to believe in a methodology that did not involve God, that did not involve Allah. People did not want to believe in Allah. Why? The question comes, why not want to believe in Allah? Why not want to believe in God? The reason being is, the view was that if you believe in a God, then you must also believe in a punishment, and you must also believe in reward. You must also believe in heaven and hell. Next question comes is, how do you get to heaven and how do you avoid hell? So again, that issue that came up from there was, well, okay, the only way you can get into heaven is if you do good things. And the only way you avoid hell is you don't do bad things. So now, what is good and what is bad? How does somebody work out what is good, and how does somebody work out what is bad? So again, they needed to see what God said was good and what God said was bad. But that meant rules, that you can't do this. You can't drink alcohol. You can't eat swine. You can't commit zina. You can't take riba. You can't do this. And all those meant sacrifices. All those meant difficulties. On top of that, you must be good. You must give charity. You must pray. You must worship. You must help people. You must not take advantage of people. So again, it seemed that those were difficult and hard things to do. So people don't want to live by rules in this world, or rather, they want to live by the rules, their own rules, not by the rules of Allah. Nobody likes rules. Nobody likes to be told what to do. People prefer to do what they want to do rather than be told what to do. And if a person follows a religion, then they are being told what to do rather than choose what to do. So this was the whole basis and the whole foundation of where the evolution theory came about from. So we start by these fundamental issues of chance. So there's an interesting discussion which teachers share with us. And it mentions that there was an atheist and there was a religious scholar. And the atheist and the religious scholar both worked at a university. So the atheist and the religious scholar, who both worked at the university, some of the students wanted to get the two of them into a debate. That wouldn't be interesting if the religious professor had a debate with the atheist secular professor. We could then watch and we would be entertained. So the atheist professor took up that because of his arrogance and said to the religious scholar that what we will do is we will have a debate. So the religious scholar says, fine, we will have a debate, but we will do that tomorrow. So he says, why not today? He says, no, let's do it tomorrow. So he goes, okay, fine, what time? He says, 3 o'clock. Okay, 3 o'clock. Now, right next to this university was a river, and the religious scholar lived on the other side of the river. So when the next day came, and it was 3 o'clock, people had gathered in the hall. The atheist professor was already there. He had all his notes in front of him, all his dalil, all his evidence. He had his pen so he could make notes, listening, writing down what the religious scholar was going to say. All his cheerleaders were there. The religious scholar's students were there. But there's no sign of religious scholar. Don't know where he is. People started to murmur. Has he backed out? Has he got scared? Okay. The atheists were becoming very triumphant. Look, shows that we were right. Shows that he's scared. He can't argue with us. Because he can't argue, he's just run off. He's not going to come. 3 o'clock turned to 4 o'clock. Still no sign. So now the murmurings are getting louder. People are going out of the hall to see if they can find the religious scholar. 4 turns to 5 p.m. 2 hours, no sign. The atheist professor then says to the judge, who is looking over the debate, that, you know what, let's cancel this because he's not coming. Declare me as the winner. So the judge goes, well, I can't declare you as the winner because we didn't set a rule to say that how long are we going to wait for. And if the person does not turn up, then who wins? We never set those rules. So he says, well, set them now. Okay. He said, well, we can't set them now because he's not here. They said, no, we have to do it now because, we have to have a rule. So the judge goes, okay, we'll give him till 6 o'clock. If he doesn't come at 6 o'clock, then you will be declared the winner. Okay, so that's another hour. So now the professor's been waiting 3 hours. It gets near to 6 o'clock and the religious scholar runs into the hall. So everybody's thinking, where's he been for the last 3 hours? So they says to him, okay, let's start the debate. The judge says, we've been waiting long enough. But before we start the debate, the atheist professor says, I'd like to raise a question with my colleague. Where have you been? You knew that we were going to have this debate from yesterday. You knew that we had set this time aside. Why didn't you come on time? So the religious scholar says, allow me to explain. He goes, okay, fair enough, off you go. He said, well, I got to the river at 1 o'clock. So the atheist professor goes, well, if you got there at 1 o'clock, then it's only 20 minutes from the river. You should have got here by 1:30. You should have been here an hour and a half before everybody else. He goes, yeah, that's the point. When I got there, I couldn't cross the river. There was no boats. There was no bridge. So he goes, okay, what did you do then? So he goes, I waited. So the atheist professor goes, what did you wait for? He goes, well, I was waiting for a boat. He said, okay, what time was the boat coming? He goes, I don't know. So he goes, well, how long were you going to wait for? He goes, well, I was going to wait until a boat appeared. He goes, what do you mean by appeared? He goes, well, what I was going to wait for is I was waiting for a tree to fall down. And he goes, why? He goes, if the tree fell down, then I was going to wait for once the tree had fallen down. He goes, for what? He goes, I was waiting for the tree to turn into a boat. And then I was waiting for the boat to make its way to the river. And then I was going to wait until the boat made its way across the river. And then I was going to come. So the atheist professor is frowning, is half laughing. And he's saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're telling me that you were just going to wait and you just thought that a tree would collapse near you, it would fall down, and then you just waited and you just thought that tree would turn into a boat, and then you just waited to hope that the boat would walk or move across the river bank and fall into the river, and then you just hoped that it would cross the river? Are you insane? Are you mad? So the religious scholar goes, why am I mad for? He goes, because trees don't just fall down, and then trees just don't turn into boats themselves. You have to make them into a boat, and then they don't just get to the river themselves. You have to carry it to the river. And then it doesn't just float in the river. You have to get some oars and push it across the river. So the religious scholar goes, oh, so are you saying it's impossible? He goes, absolutely it's impossible. No chance in a million years. He goes, what about a billion years? He goes, no chance in a billion years. So he goes, isn't that strange? That you believe that in a billion years, this earth came together, and then from this earth, these trees were made, and rivers were made, and bees were made, and all these different things were made, humans were made, just by chance. At that point, the professor realized that he had made a big mistake. By saying that it's impossible for this to happen, he had obviously made his own situation impossible to happen. And that is where the religious scholar won the debate. It's like, for example, having this phone. And if I was to say that if I was to get a piece of metal and a piece of glass, and I was just to leave that piece of metal and that piece of glass on the floor, that over 1 billion years it would turn into a phone. Nobody would believe that, and nobody in their right mind would believe that. Anyway, we're just coming up to a small break. We're going to take that break, and when we return, inshallah, we will carry on a little bit more with our evolution theory, just to finish that conversation off. And then we will maybe pick up some questions on our forums, our Q&A forums on the Telegram channels. So don't go too far. Maybe a quick brew, a cup of coffee or something, a cup of tea, and then please get back here so we can deal with more questions and answers. See you in a few minutes' time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.